Hey everybody, this one is about do-it-yourself. Do not argue the terms of the contract. That's how they get us many times. Announcing a subscription-based YouTube channel called Sovereignty International. The recommended cost of the subscription is currently $1.99 a month because it avoids the advertising only. The only power that the New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for everybody's benefit. And for that reason, I can't imagine what I would want to put on there that would be exclusive. Otherwise, I'd make some things exclusive and put them on there. But I can't think of anything that I want exclusive. I might in the future, but at this point, I'm not. But if you want to make a donation, that's a good way to do it. Because you'll avoid all the advertising. Currently, I'm publishing 3 videos a week. Now back to the issue of do not argue the terms of the contract. It's all about competence and incompetence. If you want to be truly sovereign, there is no such thing as an incompetent sovereign. If you have a lawyer represent you, you are saying that you're an imbecile. This is Book 7, Corpus Juris Secundum, Section 4, on attorneys. He is, however, in a sense, an officer of the state with an obligation to the court. His first duty is to the courts and to the public, not to the client. Whenever his duties to his client conflict with those as an officer of the court in the administration of justice, the former must yield to the latter. I can't tell you how many people I know got sold down the river by the liar, because, that's what they do. It's a commercial transaction. You have to understand that there's nothing to do with justice that goes on in there. Clients are also called wards of the court. And a ward of the court is an infant or a person of an unsound mind. Okay, that's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. A ward of the court is an imbecile. A ward of the court is not competent. Everything is about competence and incompetence. That's why they are representing you, because you're not competent to make decisions for yourself. Therefore, the attorney is going to make the decisions for you. There is no such thing as an incompetent sovereign. Do you know who you are? I see people argue the terms of the contract all the time. It's an easy trap to slip into, and so that's why I'm making this video, and we'll go into some examples. If you argue the terms of the contract, you give them the contract. A real generic example of that is if somebody comes up to you on the street and says you owe them $50, and you said, I paid you $25 last month or $50 last month, then you just admitted the contract. The proper answer is, where is the contract? This is exactly what the IRS and other revenue agencies do every day. They'll send you a letter, say, well, we reassessed you and we decided that you owe us this. And people just fork it over. It happens every day. A traffic court is another good example. They say you were speeding. If you say that you were going the speed limit, or argue anything in their statutes, quite frankly, you give them a contract. You should say, where's the evidence that I'm required to follow your speed limits? If you argue the terms of the contract and also say they have no jurisdiction, so you're basically doing both things at the same time, you're saying that you're arguing the terms of the contract, and then by the same token, you're saying that I'm not subject to your speed limits. The judge will see that you're double-minded. He'll see that you do not know what you're doing. In other words, incompetent. And he'll represent you and rule against you. That's exactly what they do. A revenue agency, they send you a request to file letter. If you send them a letter saying your income was below the required limit, or I paid last year, or any number of things, if you argue their statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, you give them the contract. And it's just a commercial transaction, and they can do anything they want. You got to understand, they're thieves. That's the bottom line. You should respond with a letter listing the numerous reasons why you're not required to file. If you respond with a letter arguing the terms of the contract and also saying they have no jurisdiction, so you cannot do both, okay? It's either you're a slave or you're the king, and there's nothing in between. They will see that and they'll represent you because you're incompetent, and they'll continue with their solicitations and steal your property and do all sorts of stuff. This is economy, plumbing, and heating versus U.S. Persons who are not taxpayers are not within the system and can obtain no benefit by following the procedures prescribed for taxpayers, such as the filing of claims for refunds. Long versus Rasmussen. The revenue laws are a code or system of regulation of tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers. The latter are without their scope. No procedures are prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal. They are neither the subject nor the object of the revenue laws. So again, if you argue the statutes, you give them the contract. The reason I brought this up is because someone recently was an issue with a union agreement, okay? And it just comes down to the same thing, okay? It's always the same thing. In the union agreement, they said they could seek common law remedies and all this other stuff. And anyways, so there was an incident that happened. They filed a grievance. Over a year later, they filed a lawsuit because the grievance wasn't getting anywhere. The union was basically denying them justice, and so they filed a lawsuit and mentioned the grievance and the union contract. And the court dismissed the case because of lack of jurisdiction, okay? And you have to understand that any court, and I don't care what court it is, any court, that's the first thing they're going to look at is what did you do to exhaust your administrative remedies, because you have to do everything you can to exhaust your administrative remedies before you start bringing lawsuits. The only argument in this case would be that because the defendant were operating outside of company policy, outside of their instructions, that they were operating in their private capacity. And so therefore, the contract doesn't apply, okay? And that's where you go with it. So anyways, that's the only argument you can make in this situation, okay? I mean, every situation is a little bit different, but again, you cannot argue the terms of the contract. A letter, they send you a solicitation, okay? They send these solicitations all the time. They say your grass is too long, and if you do not get it cut, then they will fine you $200 under the city ordinance. That's solicitation, is what it is. It's an offer of contract. You say that you're out of town and you'll cut it when you get back in 2 weeks. Well, you just gave them the contract. You should reject their offer of contract pursuant to their Regulation Z, Truth in Lending. Another good example is a lawsuit, and I know people that have done this, by the way. If you argue anything, okay, you create a controversy and you give them the contract. Okay, that's essentially what happens. If you argue anything, you should reject their offer of contract pursuant to their Regulation Z, Truth in Lending. Now, I know people that have done that. They just reject within 3 days. They send it back to the court by registered mail, and it all disappears. It's a magical thing. It's a notice for the record, and you basically put this. The reason it's in red ink is because you put it in red ink. I usually print it. I'll make a copy of the original document, so I always have backups in case it gets screwed up somehow. And then I use Microsoft Publisher, because then I can rotate it around 45 degrees and then print it. But I personally sign it, but it's got to be in red ink. You do it right over top of their offer of contract. And date received, you put the date down that you received it, and then I, by declaration, am a man, a declared living American sovereign, standing with treaty law of God, do accept your offer for value, and for the following reasons, I'm returning your offer rejected for discharge and closure. You brought United States corporate law with color outside your jurisdiction and without an international treaty with my republic state, and you have no jurisdiction on the land of Texas. You falsely accuse me of being a citizen of the United States. You're trespassing and criminally attempting to convert corporate statutes with color into lawful criminal codes without chartered, regulatory, and delegated jurisdictional authority. And you're not registered or chartered for conducting business in Texas by my republic state. And you fail to state a lawful claim upon which relief can be granted. That's like under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, 12b-6. Okay? And then you sign it. Well, at the bottom, you say all of which is sealed in red ink on the land of Texas and pursuant to locus sigilli and Rule 201 of your Rules of Evidence, and under penalty of perjury pursuant to your 28 U.S.C. 1746-1 without the United States. Dated this, and you got to make sure this date is within 72 hours of when you are saying that you received it on the front. And that's important, okay? And then put your name, sign it, and that's it. And it should be returned within 72 hours by registered mail pursuant to their Regulation Z, Truth in Lending. It should be in red ink and signed in red ink. Should be at a 45-degree angle across and over the top of their offer of contract, and it should be served by registered mail. You want to have proof of service. Either that or you personally carry it in there and you have some witnesses that can make an affidavit of service. This is one that I did with the Azle pigs, and you'll see that's how you do it. It's 45 degrees across the page and in red ink. These Azle pigs still issued their fraudulent fictitious warrant, which that's actually a capias. They sent me a postcard in the mail, but I was stopped twice after that by Satanist code enforcers, pigs. And one time, the Huntsville pigs actually did do a search warrant in their hearsay computer system, but they said there were no warrants. And in fact, I did tell the cop before I gave him anything. I told him, well, I said, if you anytime a judge is dealing with a statute, the judge is no longer a judge. He's a bought and paid for a clerk masquerading as a judge, and he can't do anything judicial. And if he tries to do anything judicial, that it's a fraud and a nullity. And so if you go and assault me, or you go and arrest me based on one of these fraudulent, fictitious so-called warrants, I said you'll be guilty of assault, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. And he came back so fast by saying that, yeah, but there's a statute in Texas that says as long as I do it in good faith, I'm okay. And I came right back at him, and I said, yeah, but now that I told you about it, you don't have good faith. And he didn't say a word after that, and all of a sudden he wasn't too interested in he just wanted to make this thing go away. You could tell he was really uncomfortable. Anyways, a friend of mine was sent a similar postcard, and we were in a local restaurant and in this city, in this town in Texas, and the chief of police came into the restaurant. He knew the chief of police, and this chief of police wasn't looking for him or anything. They just came in because, I don't know, they had something they had to do. And after he was done, he went over, saw this friend of mine, came over. We were sitting there having some lunch, and he started shooting the breeze for a few minutes, and hi, how's it going? It's like long lost buddies and everything, and then have a great day, see you later, and that was it. And yet there was this thing saying there was some warrant in existence in the Kangaroo Courthouse. And so again, you got to understand that all of their statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, state or federal, are for U.S. citizens, and if you argue anything in them, you're saying that you're a U.S. citizen and you give them the contract. These people are Satanists. Everything they do is a fraud, a lie, and they are thieves. If you get honorable treatment from one of them, it's because you happen to be dealing with a more honest thief than the rest of them. Why on earth would you expect to be a thief to be anything but a thief? They play lots of games to get you to recontract with them. That's essentially what it is. They're trying to get you to recontract with them. They're Satanists. If you argue the terms of the contract and also argue that they have no jurisdiction, the judge will see that you're double-minded, or I should say the clerk masquerading as a judge, and that you do not know what you're doing, and that you're incompetent. And so then he'll go ahead and represent you and rule against you. It's the same thing that bureaucrats do. If you ask them about the meaning of a statute, you go into the DMV and you say, does this statute apply to me? They'll tell you every time, yes, it does. Because if you're so stupid that you don't know what this thing means, then you're the slave. You're incompetent. But if the watchmen see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, and the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hands. This is my effort to make sure that I'm blameless on Judgment Day. Either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. You're now a watchman, and I hope you're blameless on Judgment Day too, but you're going to have to, if you don't want to believe what I say, I suggest you do the research and find out for yourself, but you cannot sit on the fence anymore. I got other videos, over 250, Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3, Churchy Entities Series, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1, 2, and 3, Do It Yourself, How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service and the Draft, Martial Laws here, Do It Yourself No Income Tax, Do It Yourself No Sales Tax, Do It Yourself Traffic Stop 1 and 2, Do It Yourself Free Mail 1 and 2, Do It Yourself Kangaroo Courts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And more, lots more. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating-Your-Public-Servants. I have YouTube videos that are videos of private information shares that show these and other court citations that are available for a donation. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept IOUs, Federal Reserve notes, PayPal gifts, checks, money orders, etc. Send me an email for particulars. This last paragraph is for the Satanist order follower revenue officers operating in their private capacity under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966, and they can put their privileges and benefits up their rectal orifice. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the commercial paper. If you find this useful, then you need to pay it forward. If you don't know what pay it forward means, then watch the movie and send me your success stories. I want to put them up in my blog. My blog is SovereigntyInternational.wordpress.com. My website is SovereigntyInternational.fyi. My email is engineerwin@yahoo. My YouTube profile is Sovereign Living. I've got two of them, and the other one that I just created called Sovereignty International. My Facebook community page, I deleted it because of censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group at Facebook called Sovereignty International is in the process of being deleted. I have to ban everybody off the group, and there's like 17,000 people, so it's going to take a while. My Yahoo private group is called Administrating-Your-Public-Servants. My Google private group is called Administrating-Your-Public-Servants. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. I hope you get something out of it. Spread the word. We need to put a stop to this tyranny, and the only way that it's going to happen is by educating the people. And so the people, their only power they have is through fraud and deception. And so we need to educate the people about the law and how the law works and put a stop to it. And you are now recruited. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a really great day. And thank you. Bye.